Being Muslim and a woman. This conversation is between four friends who are talking about their faith in Islam. They're looking at questions written by a group of high school students, most of whom are white and non-Muslim and aged between 12 and 13 years old. The four friends are sitting in a quiet room in the mosque. They're all young women in their 20s or 30s and wear the hijab. They share their experiences and feelings of how being a Muslim impacts on their lives.
Is being Muslim the most important part of your personal identity? Discuss.
Okay, for me personally, I think it is. I kind of relate to myself as Muslim before anything else. Because every day, from the minute I wake up, all it's all about to me is how to practice my religion in every aspect of my life. And so, yeah, but then I mean, like I said, it's not all about, I don't just think religion. To me, it's like I work, I do, socialise, but at the back of my mind, I'm aware that I'm a Muslim. So, yes, that's very much the case.
Yeah, I think it's quite an intrinsic part of my identity as well, because obviously I wear the hijab. So when I walk out, I know that I'm being looked at as a Muslim. So it's just kind of like, okay, that's what I look like, and the way I act and everything, it's just as a Muslim, so it's always in my mind. So I think it is like a big part of my identity.
I have to agree. I think especially as hijab wearing Muslim women, we are very identifiable, and you are aware that, in essence, as well as it being an important part of your identity, you're aware that you in part represent Islam to the rest of the community. I think it's your identity is more than one thing. As much as Islam is a very important part of my identity, your identity is much more than just that. There's lots of things that would make up the person you are. But yeah, definitely Islam forms a huge part of that.
See, I don't go out every day thinking, I'm a Muslim, I have to behave in a certain way. I go out because this is me, and I act how I want to act, I do what I want to do, and within the remits of Islam, but I don't see being a Muslim as any different as being me. I don't see myself as anything else. I don't see it as a part of me, it is me. It just is who I am. I don't go out thinking I have to behave in a certain way because I'm Muslim. I just behave whichever way takes my whim, as people who know me. But yeah, because of that, because of me, just this is who I am. The idea of things like, I've got friends who'll be like, no, don't you want to just like take your scarf off? Like, no, it's part of me. It doesn't form me. It is me. I don't see it as a separate entity that defines any part of me. I just see it as part of me in general. Yeah. So yeah. So yes, that's probably part of my identity. Ooh, okay. You want to read it? Don't want to read it. I would like to ask a Muslim, do you support minority groups such as gay or trans people? I am asking because I believe it is important to make changes to accept everyone.
Okay.
I believe that we live in an inclusive society that should respect every aspect of another person's identity, whereas I wouldn't necessarily myself, for example, as much as different faiths have specific views on homosexuality or transgender, that shouldn't impact the way that we treat people of that identity. In fact, I think that you'd find some of the biggest supporters of minority groups, including biggest supporters of Muslims, will be people from the transgender community, because they've been discriminated against, they've been vilified in the past. So yeah, I agree with an inclusive society 100%.
I also agree with an inclusive society. However, I don't go out my way to support them, because I think it's like saying, do you support minority groups? So I wouldn't go out my way to support them, like, for example, attending Pride and things like that. However, if there are gay or trans people, I wouldn't hate them, but I wouldn't support it. Like I wouldn't be encouraging it. So, like, yeah, but I wouldn't hate them in any way. So I do believe in an inclusive society, like I said at the start.
For me, well, I work in the fashion industry, so the huge majority of people who work within the fashion industry are, homosexual. So I have met so many, and they're Muslim lovers. They're human beings, just like human. They all have the same, differences, the same things as well. So, I've always accepted. Do you know what I mean? And I think we all have to accept each other. We live in this world where we have freedom of choice, and even in Islam we have freedom of choice. We have the choice to either follow God or not follow God. God has given us that choice. So it's for me to say, oh no, they can't be, or no, I don't want them around me. And that's the worst thing you can say. Do you know what I mean? Because it's actually against the practice of Islam. Mm-hmm. I've never been to a gay pride. I don't intend to go to a gay pride because I just don't. I've never actually seen. For me personally, I don't see the whole gay pride thing, the massive thing, as a big deal. Do you know what I mean? Everyone is entitled to who they want to be, and that's that. We should all accept it.
I think it's important to make the distinction. You mentioned not going to gay pride and supporting. I think the biggest thing that we can do in terms of inclusivity is that it becomes normal. And I think whereas gay pride, as much as it's an event that's very important to the gay community, it's one day or one weekend a year. It doesn't really define how inclusive your society is. As you mentioned, a lot of my colleagues identify as gay or transgender, and for me it doesn't impact in any way how I see them as human beings. And 100% that I think maybe some people that statement may allude to is the way that some kind of religious zealots will approach people who identify as homosexuals. And I don't mean just Muslims, we see it in society by lots of bigots. And that's something that I wouldn't condone as a Muslim in any way, shape or form.
I'm not actually entirely sure how to answer that question because I have no issue with anyone being gay, bi, trans. I have met some amazing people of all faiths and all genders and everything. Again, I don't go to Pride, I don't celebrate Halloween, I don't do Christmas, I don't do Diwali. It's not a lack of supporting them, it's just it doesn't affect me because I amn't one of them. Although I consider myself bi-curious, that's just me, but because of my faith and my belief in my faith, I wouldn't act on it. But there are plenty of Muslims who do, and that's their prerogative and their choice. And I wouldn't treat them any differently for that either. I mean, believing in one God and being Muslim does not stop because you also like the same sex as you or you don't think you are what you are. Ultimately, Islam is the belief in one God. Irrespective of anything else you do in your life, that is what defines you as a Muslim. And you follow that path as well as you can do, or as well as you want to. And that goes for any of us. I would like to ask a Muslim, do you agree with everything the Qur'an says? I am asking this because if you did believe everything it says, I think life would be very difficult. Yes, I do.
Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar.
That was perfectly timed.
That was perfect.
أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله الله أكبر
Well, children, that was the Muslim call to prayer. So yeah, going back to do you agree with everything the Quran says? Yes.
Yes.
It's the word of God. That's kind of like the cut and dry of it. We believe it's from God, not from man. So it's kind of hard to say that there's any mistakes in it if that's what you believe, and that's what we believe.
I think it's also important to point out that the Qur'an in itself is interpreted in different ways.
That's it.
And while you believe everything in it, certain passages or certain parts of it can be interpreted by different people in different ways.
Yeah.
So that's also important to keep in mind.
There are parts of it that we're actually told that we'll never understand the meaning of until the day of judgment or in the hereafter. So yeah, it is a testament to faith. Next question. I would like to ask a Muslim, do you ever feel that you don't want to do something, but you don't want to disobey your God? All the time. I am asking because I know sometimes people can feel pressured and was thinking that religion could be the reason. I am a raging tart, but I'm not allowed to be, and it's very frustrating. So I eat my feelings. I can assure you, I would have some very good friends all over the place if I was allowed, but I'm not. So I'm a big girl who eats food instead. I do things that I don't want to because I love God more.
Yeah, okay.
Next.
So, I think for me personally, talking about the hijab thing, when I first got me to put the hijab, and I think more it was a cultural thing because I got made to do it as a young child. So, I wouldn't even say that was disobeying God when I was reluctant to do it. And most times, you do get times when you're actually thinking, sad enough. Sometimes even with prayer, sometimes there's times you think, do I need to pray now? Do I really need to pray now? But it's doing it for the love of God.
So I feel like fasting in the UK.
I love fasting.
Yeah, but in summer when it's 20 hours long, I feel like it's quite difficult and it's a
fasting.
test of your faith. Yeah,
I love it. Even in summer, I had no problem.
I know. It's because it only comes once a year, I think.
Yeah.
And it's very special and everything, but it is a test of your faith as well. Not eating and drinking for 20 hours, it's really difficult. And then trying to cram everything into 4 hours. And especially difficult if you've got exams and everything at the same time, like I did this year. So it was really, really difficult. And there was times that I was personally, I didn't want to fast, but I was I don't want to disobey my God. Ramadan literally comes once a year. It's only 30 days. And that's what kind of pushed me through it. And I think realizing the benefits of fasting and the benefits of not disobeying your God, and that's what kind of pushes you through. Why are you doing this? The reasons why you're doing it. And that outweighs your doubt. So I think that was a big test of faith for me this year.
Yeah.
See, for me, it's getting on my prayers on time, or at all. Fasting never causes me a problem. I'm the only one in my entire family that loves Ramadan. Everyone else gets stressed. I'm just I freaking love Ramadan. I wish I had that control the rest of the year because otherwise I wouldn't be this fat. But for me, it's getting up for Fajr, staying up for Isha,
Yeah.
That's my big thing.
Getting up for Fajrs. Yeah.
Yeah. I just went to sleep. Yeah, no. So for me it's prayer, but I feel so much better once I've done it and I know this.
Yeah, that's the thing. You feel better after.
Yeah,
that's the thing.
That's it. You do
That's
feel
what
better
gets
after
you
doing
through.
it, but then it's just that
It's
the
just
devil's
doing it.
sitting on your shoulder or pushing your head down, going, but it's just one more minute. Yeah, but you do feel better afterwards.
Yeah.
I think it's important to say that for us, maybe because we're a cohort, but I feel like you get a specific sense of satisfaction from performing certain aspects of religious kind of obligations, whether it's fasting or prayer, probably because it's a lot for most people at times of stress. It's not just Muslims. You turn to your faith simply because that's what gives you the strength to go on, but also this serenity, and that again comes from sometimes doing daily things that you may not want to do, but once you've done them, you feel kind of at peace, and that's specifically in prayer.
Yeah.
When you talk about prayer, as much as you're I have to go and do wudu and I have to go and do prayer, but actually once you've done it, and that kind of 2 seconds after you've said salam, and you're
Yeah.
I've done,
peace.
Yeah. I would like to ask a Muslim, do you think certain groups give your religion a bad name? I am asking this because I believe your religion is very well known for bad reasons and you must be annoyed by this.
Totally agree.
Somebody else answer first because I have so many freaking stories about this one. Anyone else want to talk about it?
I'm going to say one thing is that good people and bad people exist everywhere, regardless of their faith, regardless of their nationality. And I think when it comes to how Muslims are portrayed in the media and in society, it's the whole idea of if you tell one story often enough, it becomes the recognised narrative and the recognised truth.
Yeah.
Whereas, I know good Muslims, I know bad Muslims, I know good Christians, I know bad Christians, I know good atheists, I know bad atheists. What you do as a human being is you are responsible for it yourself. Your faith is not responsible for it, it's you. If I do something bad, it's not because I'm a Muslim, it's because I've done something bad as a human being. This is probably one of the things that frustrates me the most in society is when I see headlines and the first thing that identifies the person that's done something bad is their faith as a Muslim.
Yeah.
When I see something bad that's being performed, an act that's been performed by a non-Muslim, there's absolutely nothing in those headlines or in that story to identify their faith at all. Their faith should not come into it. Why would you blacklist a full religious faith based on the actions of one person or based on the action of a minority? Those people are bad because they're bad. It's not because they're Muslim.
It's like so much so that the media's made up words like Islamist.
Yeah.
What's an Islamist?
Yeah.
To me, an Islamist would be somebody who's prays 5 times a day, fasts the whole of Ramadan, fasts like on Mondays and Fridays as well, goes to Jummah, like is a very good Muslim, has faith in everything. They've just made up these words. It was Islamic jihadist or things like that. Like it just makes no sense. And it's that they're kind of like Islam is the reason that they're bad instead of no, you get good Muslims and bad Muslims.
Yes,
It's not because of Islam.
I think what bugs me the most about it is the fact that Islam or Muslims is in the media so much, and yet nobody knows anything about us.
Yeah.
Like, we're all wearing burqas, even though we're all wearing hijab.
Yeah.
And we're all submissive, put upon women who are going to blow ourselves up. I'm like, really? I mean, the number of times I work in the nursing profession, and the number of times I've been asked, what religion are you? And you're thinking, really? In this day and age, after 9/11, with Islam literally in the headlines daily, you don't know what a Muslim woman looks like? Just beggars belief.
I've had the experience of people have a preconception or a prejudice of what a Muslim should be.
Yeah.
If I had planned for the number of times that people tell me, oh, you're not what I expected.
Yeah.
In one of my first jobs as a junior doctor, several of the nurses when I was leaving that job were like, oh, you're definitely not, when you first started, you're not what I expected at all. And I'm like, why should you expect anything? Just because I wear a headscarf, why should you have a predefined conception of what you think I should be?
Yeah. Or you'll get, oh, you're a pretty relaxed Muslim. Oh, you're pretty cool.
Yeah. I'm very frequently told, oh, you're not a very good Muslim though. I'm like, well, what would you define as a good Muslim?
Yeah.
I don't speak with an accent because I don't have one. I speak like a normal Brit because I am a normal Brit. I mean, what? Oh, but because you swear. It's like, to be perfectly honest, the reason I swear so much is because it makes white people more comfortable with me wearing a scarf because like, oh, she's normal.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, it's now become a habit where it pisses off the Muslims and it makes the white people happy. I'm just like, and the Muslims are so, some of the Arabs I've met or whatever else out there, they have preconceived notions of what I am because I don't speak Arabic fluently. So you're like, okay, so I'm not white enough for the whites, but I'm not brown enough for the browns. I'll just be my own little arsey self. It's great fun, and now I'm a psychopath.
I think a lot of the preconceptions that people have are probably cultural rather than religious, and it's like all this whole lumping of all Muslims, and it's like if you're brown and you're Muslim, you're all the same. I think people need to realise that it's entirely different cultural. Your culture is very different from your religion, you know, you and I we're both Muslim, and we may do a lot of things similarly because we're Muslim, but we're different culturally because we're from different cultural backgrounds.
Yeah.
And I think it's quite difficult to get that across to society.
That's it.
In general.
And although I'm half Arab, I don't have a lot of Arab culture because my mother's a Scot. You get your culture from your female parent because she's the one that usually raises you and then teaches you your culture.
Yeah.
So I'm very British, technically British mentality and British acting, but with a very strong Islamic influence, but not an Arab influence.
Yeah.
And that confuses some people because it's like, well, you're not one of us, but you're not one of them, but you're not one of us.
But what this is again the whole labelling thing. Why should you be one or the other?
But that's it. Why can't you tell it? Irrespective of whether your colour, your sexuality, your sex, your perceived sex, your religion, if we could just learn to like each other and just respect. You don't even have to like each other, just respect each other. Just respect someone's right to be themselves. As long as you're not hurting anyone.
I just hate the fact that we always have to justify Muslims' action. Why should
or
I
apologising
have to
for some
apologise,
Muslim some Muslim in
You know,
Iraq has done
no one
something.
apologised for the Australian guy that went and
Or-
killed randomly 51 people.
Or the guy
Why? Because
in
he's a
his own
lunatic.
person.
He's his own
Yeah.
person. It's the same for every person who takes an innocent life. No person in their right mind, regardless of their faith, can ever justify that as an act that is consistent with what God would want, regardless of who your God is.
And there's the Islamic thing of if you kill one person, you kill all of humanity. If you save one person, you save all of humanity.
Exactly.
And I wish to God people would get a hold of that in the media and post that everywhere so that more people would see it and say, oh, right, so this is what actually Muslims believe.
Yeah.
This is what's actually written in our scriptures. So the actions of a few people who consider themselves Muslim does not mean that they're actually following the scriptures.
Yeah.
I would like to ask a Muslim, what do you enjoy most about being a Muslim? I am asking this because it seems like the religion is very strict.
I like that question.
It is a good question. It is a strict-ish religion, but it depends on what you define as strict.
I enjoy about being a Muslim is the comfort you get. I think we spoke about it before, the sense of kind of satisfaction and comfort you get from prayer. I really enjoy that. I feel like in times of stress, in times of hardship, where you need comfort and you need some sort of like reassurance that like everything's going to be all right.
Yeah.
You get that from religion, and that's the part that I enjoy the most.
Yeah, you probably find that in a lot of religions, that's the part that people enjoy, is the fact that you put your faith in something bigger than you.
Yeah.
Like I was saying recently, how I feel sometimes society has let me down, my family has let me down, occasionally friends have let me down, but the one thing that one person has never let me down, no matter what I've done or what has happened to me, is God. Because even in my worst moments, in my darkest moments, God has got me through it. And it seems really weird to say that I could have literally have been at my lowest ebb, thinking of not wanting to be around anymore, and God just like, well, you know what, dude, we can do this. And I have done. I'm still here, many years later, and I've been all right. And I put that down purely to God and my faith in Him.
Also, I think, changing the view of what people think of being a Muslim is, they see that we're just like normal, fun-loving people. We're actually fun-loving people, and they actually they've like you said earlier, how their views change.
Yeah.
I've had people say, well, you're actually lovely. And that's the beautiful thing about being a Muslim, is that, you can actually show people who you really are. And they're actually quite surprised. And you wear a scarf. And it's like, it's not like, I wear a scarf with headbands on, you know what I mean? And a lot of them always comment about that. Do you know what I mean? That's who I am as a person. And I think, if I can represent my religion just through me, just through my, just through my actions, just through who a person I am, then to me that's what I love about being a Muslim, that I can be myself and people can see who I am, but yet they see me as a Muslim,
Yeah. I cosplay. I cosplay as Kylo Ren and Maleficent and other stuff. And I have a great time when people realise it's a Muslim woman underneath the mask. And my colleagues at work, the only time I ever dress up at things like Christmas and Halloween because of our religion, I only ever do it when I'm at work, because basically in my head it's more important to give people a good hospital experience than it is to be not dressing up. And, we've had staff who have gone through stresses at home, and I come in dressed up as a bunny rabbit or a Brussels sprout or a faceless monster from the pit, and you know, it might scare them, but it will ultimately amuse them. And if you can bring some light into someone's life, and I think Islamically we're really taught to do what we can. So if you can make someone smile, if you can bring some light into their life, that is, I think, the most important thing for me as a Muslim. And what I love the most about Muslim is that it actually encourages you to make somebody's day better.
Yeah, it's like you were saying about it. It gives you, for me, being a Muslim kind of gives me purpose outside the whole daily run of work, of, you know, earning a living. There's something else it reminds me there's something else that's bigger. And as you said, the most important thing is the fact that at times of stress, which we all have, we go through really difficult times in our life. I generally would never have survived those if I didn't have my faith. You know, when members of my family were seriously unwell, you know, without my faith, I don't know where I would have been. That's, you know, at your lowest point that you turn to God. And regardless of your faith is, I think most people, as you mentioned, regardless of what their faith is, that's probably what's most important about having a belief of any sort, is that it gives you a strength at your weakest point.
I was actually speaking to this one woman, and she was saying that she organised this event and it was incredibly stressful. And afterwards, she was cleaning up after the whole day, being up really early, and she was sweeping the floor, and she was smiling. And everyone was like, you know, you've had such a draining day, you know, it's been crazy and everything. She's like, why are you smiling? She was like, because I know with every brushstroke, I'm getting good deeds. I'm getting ajr. And it's about just staying positive. And religion gives you that. Religion gives you positivity.
And I also love those moments. I don't know about you, but there's moments like when you're reading the Qur'an and there's like certain phrases that jump out at you, and you're like,
slap you in the face.
Like, and like it's not even that. It's also they remind you, they're comfort, and actually they remind you. There's like little, like I remember one time I was literally driving, and I think it's Surah An-Nur was on, and in it there's like a phrase about how a kind word is like a good tree with roots deep in the ground and branches high in the sky, or something like that. And I remember like listening to it and thinking, and I'd never really, like I said about 3 years ago, and I'd never really kind of like paid attention to that particular verse. But there's moments like that, and you encounter them in different things. Sometimes you hear a hadith, sometimes you hear like some sort of story, and it reminds you that actually in Islam there's different morals and different stories that actually brighten up your day. You're like, actually, do you know what? That's so true.
I burst into tears on the Forth Road Bridge once, listening to nasheeds, and it was a guy singing about Hajj. And there was something in it, I think it was about the Prophet, you're basically, you know, crying for the Ummah, and ultimately, you know, at the end of days, if there's one Muslim in hell, he will continually petition Allah. And I'm in tears. I'm on the motorway, bawling my eyes out because our Prophet is amazing and I don't deserve it. And it was, but I felt so much love in that moment. It was so strange for someone that you will never meet in this lifetime. And it's like, God, that guy's amazing. And I'm like, wow. I'm thinking, I'm going to drive off this bridge. It's ridiculous. Don't want to meet him quite yet. I'm not ready. So you get moments. And everyone will get moments like that where there'll be something bigger than yourself that is just amazing. And that's what Islam is. I would like to ask a Muslim, do women feel comfortable wearing hijabs? I'm asking this because I think women should feel confident in the way they look and not need to hide.
I think if I wasn't wearing the hijab, I'd be hiding. Because
I
it's like, that's who I am.
Dude, you have never known the pleasure of coordinating a scarf perfectly with an outfit.
It's like a massive achievement.
It's so, see if you get like just the right shade of red, or the contrasting.
So satisfactory.
So like the cap is the right shade of grey that matches the purple on the scarf that's on the skirt. Honestly, the satisfaction you get of having an outfit put together to the very pinnacle of the scarf.
And plus, you know what? People dye their hair. You don't even dye your hair. You
Yeah.
just look.
Bad hair day doesn't matter.
That's it. You do, however, get bad hijab days. There are days where the scarf don't sit right. It flies in your face and gets stuck to your makeup, which we're not meant to wear. But I like my scarf. There have been situations where I've been in where there have been threats because of my scarf, and I've had to think about what I do or how I wear it. I was attacked at work once where the scarf was pulled, and the way that I wrap my scarf is tension set, so as the scarf was pulled, my neck went click. So I started wearing a two-piece scarf, which meant that if I was attacked, the scarf would literally just come apart. But it ain't nearly as sexy as the floaty one. So the chances of me getting attacked now as a big confident person is pretty much less than when I was 17. So I now have started going back to my wraparound scarves and
I don't.
things.
You raised a valid point. It's not the scarf that affects your confidence. It's
society.
It's society and their reaction to you as someone who wears the scarf. That's probably the worst. That can be the worst thing.
That's what makes you feel uncomfortable.
If there's certain points, certain scenarios that you encounter in life, you mentioned work, similarly, it's not being attacked, but certain conversations that people feel that they can open with you that are completely inappropriate, where they're politically or religiously charged, and they're purely based on the fact that they've identified you as someone who wears a headscarf, and they feel that it's okay to cross that boundary, whereas if I was someone who wasn't wearing a headscarf, that wouldn't ever come into play. I've actually had to tell people, I think this conversation is inappropriate, I'm going to walk away now.
The thing is that's something I wish we could actually give training to our young people for, because I wear a scarf, you ultimately, so a scenario at work, I'm wearing the scarf. Oh, are you Muslim? Yes, I am. So then that opens up this whole question, and I have absolutely no problem answering any questions. Does that mean you don't have a boyfriend? No, I don't. Does that mean you don't believe in premarital sex? We practice abstinence before marriage. Does that mean you're a virgin? Now, when in any situation is my lack or having or anything to do with my sexual practices a conversation between me and anybody else, short of my partner? But I have had that conversation over the last 20 years in the NHS more times than I care to count. People, and there was a time when I'm like, well, that would be the assumption you should make if that is the practices that I say that I follow. But are you a virgin? It's like, that would be none of your business. Would I ask you about whether or not things have been happening? So your privacy is like you have none, because we want to know. It's like, yes, you are entitled to ask certain questions. There are certain questions you should not ask of anybody if it's not your business. Irrespective of what you want to know. There are ways of phrasing things that you would like to know about the religious practices. Google's amazing. You can type in a lot of things to Google and not offend anybody. Do Muslims have premarital sex? The standard is no. Obviously, individuals do what individuals do.
Again, this is all about being an individual.
That's it, being about individuals. But just because, it's like, that would be like me going up to a goth and saying to them, do you drink blood, or do you have orgies, or, it's whatever. I actually don't know a lot of goth stereotypes, I've just realised. Although I like the aesthetic of goth culture, I'm just saying. But, you wouldn't go up to, like, punks, or are you drug addicts? Because they look like they might be a drug addict because of the sallow eyes or whatever else. You wouldn't ask certain questions of people. You just assume or just accept rather than assume.
Educate yourself.
Educate yourself, or just accept that they're different from you, and that's a good thing.
I think that's the way that we perceive then gay people and trans people.
That's
it just ties back to that question. Like, we perceive them as how other people should be perceiving us.
Yes, you wouldn't go up to a gay guy going, "Are you top or bottom?"
Yeah.
Well, you might, but you might not survive it. So why should it be any different for us? Although we are a peace-loving race, most of us. But there are certain things that obviously everyone is interested in certain things that are different, and we'll get back to the scarf thing. But I feel totally comfortable wearing my scarf. I just wish that other people didn't feel comfortable interrogating me about my private life because of it, or treating me like crap because of it, because I've had the same thing. I've been at the bus stop and had my scarf pulled. I've been attacked at work. I've been called a packy. I'm like, dude, I am whiter than you.
Oh my God.
I'm like, when you are literally albino fleshed as I am, anyone with a fake Donald Trump tan calling you any form of ethnicity is like, really?
I was on the train a few months ago, and this random person felt the need to, and I was going home, and I had a rucksack on, and the guy felt the need to declare to the whole coach that I was carrying a bomb in my rucksack. The weird thing is, he kept repeating this. Not one person in that coach felt the need to say, "Mate, you're out of order, sit down." And it's not even the individuals carrying the act, it's the fact that it's normal for other people to basically not stand up for you. That's the thing that hurt the most. I can recognise that there's going to be idiots in society, that one individual that's going to do something stupid and idiotic, that's still damaging and hurtful. But then for a full packed coach, not one person, after 5 minutes of this person repeating the same litany, say, actually just sit down and be quiet.
Because as a single woman, irrespective of a scarf, you are being basically physically threatened. Why are we living in a society where that's acceptable just because you're wearing a headscarf?
Exactly.
If any person, any time, is being in any way bullied or victimised, then we should be, as a society, standing up for them, irrespective of why that's happening. You know, it's somebody going about their daily lives because they're black, they're gay, they're trans, they're Muslim, they're Sikh, they're white in a neighbourhood where there's mostly other ethnicities. No one should ever feel that they can't just walk around going about their life because they are them. That, I mean, society, we're meant to be getting better as a society. I feel like we're regressing.
We're 100%. I in my personal experience, we're 100% regressing. I think I've encountered more problems in the last 3 years than I've encountered growing up here for majority of my life.
We don't want to get political, but there are certain things and certain people who have come about of late that are a worrying trend in the West. Not that the East is much better, so I say we go to the moon.
I was in a restaurant once, and I was with my friends. It was one of my friends' birthday party, and we got all her presents and we put them into a box. And I was sitting at the end of the table, so I had all of that like just at my feet, like the box at my feet. And so it was quite a long table, and I was right at the end. So there was a table next to me. The guy at the table like looked at the box and looked at me. I didn't really think of anything of it, and then he was like, "Oh, I hope you don't have a bomb in there."
In what?
I would be like, bitch, I am the bomb.
And all my friends were like, they didn't know whether to say something or laugh or what. And I just laughed because, you know, it's my friend's birthday. I don't want to ruin it.
But in what world does an adult think that's an appropriate comment to make?
I know.
But it's like when a man says to a woman, nice tits, and you're like going, I'm so complimented that you looked at my breasts.
I know.
We're not.
It's just as awkward. You just, I don't know what to say. Like, I'm not exactly going to be like, how dare you say that to me? Because it's a restaurant, like it's a nice atmosphere, whatever. I don't really want to ruin that.
You don't want to cause a fuss.
So you just laugh.
Yeah.
But it was very inappropriate.
The problem is that you're constantly brushing, and I see we all do it, you're brushing these comments under the carpet, and you're like, oh, it's okay, it's this one time. But then you realise you speak like we're sitting here, that we're all having the same experiences, and it's happening far too often.
And the thing is, it's happening to us as more mature women and all that, but what about the 16-year-old girls who aren't confident, who haven't got a strong sense of self? I mean, I didn't have a strong sense of self at 16. At 16, I was completely victimised by anything and everything that happened to me. Now, I'd kick ass, but as a child, I didn't. And we're now living in a society where people feel it's their right to make a comment or an aggression. Nobody's going to stand up for you, as we all know, because we've had it before. I've had violence faced in the street, and people are just looking at you going, well, you know, you are what you are. I'm like, what, a single white female with a scarf on my head? Really? That is intimidating to you. If people were truly afraid of Muslims, they would not be accosting them in the street. If I'm scared of something, I am going in the opposite direction, not going, I shall see this head on and attack it.
But we see that as well. I mean, I'm walking down the street and I physically see people who cross the street and then cross back.
Or on the bus when you don't want to sit next to you.
In fairness, that does amuse me slightly. I'm like, really? But then again, I'm a lot bigger than you, so I am the kind of person that makes people cross the road for a multitude of reasons. And I'm twisted.
No, the bus issue. I honestly, I thought it was in my head, but every time.
It happens.
More so in Edinburgh than it was for me when I was down south.
You would rather stand.
Yeah. But then I quite like that for my bag.
Like over space.
I will let my middle-aged spread. It's fine. You have to have a sense of humour about things.
My friend who is a mother of two has worn the headscarf all her life. At the age of 31, after being attacked on the street twice with her kids, took the headscarf off because she's like, I've never felt so scared in my life. And again, in the middle of the street in Glasgow, and she's like, not a single person stopped. Bearing in mind this individual person is attacking a woman with 2 children under the age of 4.
Well, I had that. I was 13. I was actually walking up, not far from here, from the mosque, and a guy just ran up from behind me. And I had she was my 3-year-old niece with me, and he ran up and he just shouted in my ear. He just went, Evan Packy. And I started shaking, and I just went, coward. I started walking on, and he came over behind me and says, you say that to me again, I'll punch you in the face and break your nose. And my niece was looking up, terrified, absolutely terrified. People were just walking past, and shouting right in my face, threatening to break my nose, you know, and I thought to myself,
horrible.
you know, I can't believe this.
This is the reality.
This is the reality. Women in England especially, I mean, how many were attacked in the park that time by a bunch of white men and women? They were women with children in a park, and they were attacked. The fact that we are allowing and not standing up for that, and let's be fair, it can happen in the mosque car park, and there will be brothers who don't stand up for us. I am getting to the point now that I'm thinking every woman should be just put into martial art classes and learn to kick the ass of anyone that comes within range.
This is why I've started karate.
This is it.
Where do you
I mean, that's it. I mean, my father was like, why can't you be delicate? I'm like, have you seen the society we're living in, Dad? If I go through life delicate, I'm going to be hurt and harmed, and I'm not willing to take that risk. And no one should feel that they have to become strong because to defend themselves. Do it if you want to. I like being a strong, independent woman. I shouldn't have to be a strong, independent woman because society was going to chew me up and eat me up. And I'm still not taking my damn scarf off.
It's not as well as physical violence. It's also like, for example, my mum was in her third year of uni, and she's a teacher. And basically she was doing a placement for the whole year, and then the last she had to do a lesson and everything. Then somebody from uni came and tested her on it to see if she's doing well and everything. And the guy who came and everything, he was like, that was perfect, like I actually couldn't find anything wrong with it, you know, you've passed it from my end. Whereas the class teacher was saying that, oh no, she's inconsistent, and failed her for that year. My mum had never failed anything in university ever. And the head teacher actually spoke to my mum, and she said, we need to be careful who we let into this profession.
I know. How dare you bring ethnic minorities into it.
And after that, my mum actually took her headscarf off because she needed to pass uni.
My sister was
institutional racism that it's the whole glass ceiling thing. We're fortunate in that. I feel fortunate in my profession. It's very multicultural, and I think I don't see it as much. Whereas I have friends who are in the legal profession and in the finance profession, and they encounter it a lot. The whole prejudice of finding jobs because they're wearing a headscarf. They're very competent girls, and they do an amazing job. But essentially, it's because that prejudice of that identity, you wear a headscarf and you're automatically fighting a battle that you can't win.
My sister wears a headscarf and she's now a teacher, but she did training as a hairdresser. And as part of the hairdresser training, you had to find a placement within a hairdresser's to amalgamate your skills, not unlike a nursing placement. Not one hairdresser would take her on because how would anyone know she's a good hairdresser wearing a scarf? And I'm like,
what?
How many hairdressers
do
cut their own hair?
Yeah.
How many hairdressers are actually bloody bald? I have known plenty of female hairdressers who have the sleek globe going on. And so this logic of, no, you couldn't possibly be a good hairdresser because you wear a scarf was bullshit. Absolute bullshit. She finally found a placement with a Muslim hairdresser who didn't wear a scarf but had her in. And she even felt it when she was in placement in the college. Because people would go, oh, I don't want her cutting my hair. How do I know what she can cut hair properly? You don't cut your own hair if you've got any sense. And what about the bald blinking? You're going to turn around. If you turn around and said to someone who was, I'm not going to thinking about, what was if she had been completely bald for alopecia or chemotherapy, but wanted to do hairdressing? Sorry, hen, we don't know how you're going to cut your hair because you're bald. They would have been taken to the cleaners, but because it's a Muslim, well, you know, you're kind of out of your comfort zone. Should you not be having kids and staying in the house like every other good Muslim woman?
You're damned. This is a very valid point. You make your damned if you do, your damned if you don't. If there's a phrase that you always hear in the media from far right people, it's, oh, they don't integrate these Muslims. You're like, are you kidding me? Are you kidding me?
They don't want to mix with the white people because you don't let us. You don't give us a chance to mix with you. The minute we come along, you're like, I don't know about you. You're out the normal.
This is funny, like when I was 16, this was the thing that really brought this home to me was when I was 17, I basically volunteered to join the Samaritans and spent in their 6-week programme of training, how to talk to them, blah, blah, blah. And then it came to finish my training with certificate. I spent 6 weeks like training. And then they were like, oh, here, the shift. And I was like, I can only do day shifts. I was 17, my parents were like, you're not staying in a house with some person we don't know. Like, you know, at 17, I completely agree that. And the guy was like, well, if you can't do night shifts, that's the way it works. You can't volunteer.
You're 17.
In hindsight, as an adult, I'm like, that's complete rubbish, because volunteering by definition is in the time that you can do. Like, it's not the time.
You're not getting paid for it.
Yeah.
They're not paying you.
Yes. But on that basis, it was because I basically said, look, my parents won't allow me to stay overnight. Blah blah blah. Yeah. And he was just like, well, it's not about cultural thing. It's you need to do what hours you need to do. And actually, if I said that I couldn't do nights because I had kids, he would have been, that's fine, just volunteer during.
But because you had rules and regulations. I went to a makeup counter once and I said, do you do private makeup things? You know, because some places will have a private. No, everyone does it in the front window. I was like, well, I'm afraid for my religion thing, I'm not happy to have mascara. Well, everyone does it. Other Muslim women do it. I'm like, well, other Muslim women can, grow grapes out their ass. I don't care. I'm not doing it. So I will not be spending any money with you today. I went to Urban Decay. They were delightful. And they didn't ask me to remove my scarf to get a bit of makeup put on. I'm like, really? I'm like, well, can you just do it like this? And she's like, no, you'd have to remove your scarf for me to be able to do it. I'm like,
what?
My eyes were at the front of my face, not under my scarf.
Thanks for listening.